Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for joining us. All right, hey, she's Wendy. You're in the marriage shop, which needs some work, apparently, at the beginning of the year. I don't even know what happened. You know, we kind of do our run-throughs, we do our test, and everything's good. So tonight, not so much. We have to edit out that first 3 minutes.
Yeah, so Ashley Key and Rella Hicks, let us know if you can hear us okay, or if we need to speak up so we can figure this thing out. So
anyway,
yeah.
Hope we all had a wonderful Christmas, holiday season, a great New Year. Hopefully you, weren't too irresponsible on New Year. Maybe even like a lot of people in church. However you did it, if you're watching us, means you made it. And so welcome to 2020. And, this year it's going to be more the same, but what we're going to do is provide, hopefully a good balance of things to talk about, much of which is going to come from you, but we want to really do things that are serious because we want to be real this thing, but we also want to have some fun. So, it won't be all heavy. Some of it'll be heavy, but some of it'll be light. That's just kind of what marriage is, right? So, yeah, we'll do that now.
Okay, so thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Rella, for letting us know. So we'll just keep at this pace and at this tone, and we'll figure it out. So as Mike said, so it's now 2020 and we're back. We're going to do our best to at least join you guys or engage you guys twice a month on days at 7 p.m. at the Marriage Shop. Make sure you share that, like that. Invite someone that you think may benefit. Even singles or engaged couples, pre-married, are all welcome to join us for discussions. And so we often get requests for topics to talk about. Different people will either text us, message us, DM us, just all different kinds of ways to contact us and let us know what might be relevant to you or your marriage or relationship. And so we look forward to coming and sharing with you guys. Remind us before we finish to you guys know about some upcoming events that we will be at, and we'd love for you to join us. But don't let us forget to mention that before we leave tonight. Monica Wilson Ferguson, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And before we get into it, because you said we would be joining, we're going to try to join them at least twice a month. I assume that's because you anticipate that it's going to be busy here for a while. There'll be some things coming up.
Well, the next couple of weeks are extremely busy. Yeah. It slows down sometime after Valentine's Day. So up till February, we can at least, I think we can hit a goal of at least twice a month. Yeah.
Are you going to tell them why or?
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. You can tell them why.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so no, we're actually going next week. As many of you know, we had the honor and the blessing of being able to join with the Weekend to Remember couple speaker team. And so we'll be going, some of you may remember we were in training in Monterey back in November. This month actually marks kind of the next point in that journey where we'll go to a training event and a retreat down in Florida. And so we'll be doing that for almost a week. And then, toward the end of the month, there'll be some other things going on. And we also have some things we'll be doing with Morgan, our young. And so, so that it's been real interesting here in GA right now.
Yes. So those of you that have young children or younger children and you think being a soccer mom or going to dance class or taekwondo or whatever it is you do, baseball practice, basketball practice, that there's never an end to that, you're right. It starts out with all those things and it's like, how will we ever manage to get all these kids everywhere that they need to go? And it seems that once they get to high school, maybe that'll slow down a bit or they're driving themselves. Sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not, and maybe even into college, but we find ourselves still in the role of having to get our girls wherever it is that they need to go, even on into college. So it's been a very interesting and fun holiday season. Xavier Lucky Sr., thanks for joining us. So yes, welcome back.
So the short of that is, if you've been waiting to get your freedom, forget about it.
I don't know.
It'll be okay.
I mean, some people get freedom,
I guess.
at some point.
Do they really?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we've always talked about the fact that when people give advice to young newlyweds or young married couples, and they say, well, you should wait until you have kids, or, you know, everybody gets excited about having kids. Once you have them, they're yours, like they're a whole life.
Right.
So we've said that before, but I have to emphasize that even when your children are 65 years old, they are still your children. Something to think about.
Yeah, but I'm not hearing all this when I'm 65. I can tell you that now. Sorry. I mean, it's got a line, right? Somewhere?
Well,
anyway,
somewhere.
I mean, but y'all know, if I told the girls, and I meant it, if they need something, they need me, I'll be there. No questions asked, boom, I'm there. So yeah, that's the price. So yay, parenthood, woo. All right, so.
Yeah, so a couple of other things. So at the beginning of the year, people often do resolutions. We've gotten several invitations for vision board party. And in fact, the Oak Grove Baptist Church Marriage Ministry will be doing a vision board event for married couples at the end of this month. So look at our old page, which now belongs to London and Cheryl Dubois, for more information about that. But casting a vision for your marriage or your family or your career has become something that a lot of people have taken to. I mean, we've been doing it for years. If I recall, back in elementary school, we had to do a project where you had to build a diorama. You remember that? Okay, so a long time ago, you had to like have a box or an image, and you had to put things in it that represented what you thought your future would look like.
Really?
But yeah. And so we were encouraged, and maybe that was in Girl Scouts. Shout out to Girl Scouts. But we're encouraged to go through magazines and cut out pictures of things that you either saw yourself having or could envision for your future. And that started very early.
Wow.
And so
was there a picture of me in that?
Yeah, no. That wasn't part of my vision back then. Tamisha Kinlatter, thanks for joining us. So you put all those things in that box. And so whether you create a board, which is now the trend to do a vision board where you see it, you cast that vision, and you include the things and the goals that you'd like to reach within a certain time frame. As you probably are aware, most research suggests that if you write something down, that you're more likely to follow through with it.
Write it, not type it.
Write it down, handwrite it. Then you are more likely to follow through or meet a goal. And so anyway, it has evolved. And so now there are vision boards. And so with the dawning of 2020, everybody has jumped on the whole idea of 2020 vision, which I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, it is. It's kind of, it is, right? I mean, it's, can you not? But, it's, come on, people. I mean, that's an easy one. Softball, slow pitch. Come on, let's, But yeah, everybody's like, we're trying to be clear.
Yes.
In 2020, you know what I mean? You got to know where you're going. Anyway, by the way, I must say, you must have had a first class. I feel like my education was somehow substandard because we did not do dioramas. We did, time capsules so we could move forward and then look back. Wasn't a whole lot of vision casting in school back in the day. I wonder if it's time to crack open one of those time capsules. It's been a minute.
It might be, but I mean, what we know to be true is that there is a whole lot of talent that has out of Virginia. A whole lot of singers, actors, and leaders have come out of that area. So they must have gotten something right with that school system.
757, baby. 1 up, 2 down.
Yeah,
2 up, 2 down. VA, you know what I'm saying. Anyway.
So we are joining you to start the year. If you hadn't considered doing a vision board or sitting down together with your husband or wife to talk about what goals are for your marriage in this year, then we recommend that you do. So we try to get your attention by casting 2020 vision as what we talk about tonight. But one thing that we know is true is that even when you set goals and you're trying to look forward to the future, sometimes you don't see eye to eye.
Right. which can, when you're talking about vision, I mean, that's really kind of high level, right? You got to be in the place to really begin talking vision and thinking forward and looking out and seeing what this is going to be or what you might desire it to be going forward. And sometimes when you're caught up in conflict, I mean, that's just difficult to do. You're not thinking about the forward. You're thinking about like right now, right? Because you're kind of stuck in your feelings. Our pastor was talking about that yesterday, about getting out of your feelings. You're kind of stuck in your feelings, and when you're stuck in your feelings, I would love somebody, to tell me that they in that place of, oh yeah, I dream of X, Y, and Z, and I believe this can be in sloth and beautiful. No, it's like no, I'm stuck, gridlock. Right.
I mean, and that kind of speaks to the whole equally yoked thing too, right? Because if one of you is constantly looking forward or is trying to set goals for the future, but the other one is kind of right now and more concerned about here, I can't get to or see the vision of what is to come because we are stuck right here, then that can be a challenge. And in a lot of cases, that is the reality.
Well, the reality is that if there's not one person trying to think forward, person that's stuck. Reality is typically both people are stuck at the same time, right? Now, I think anyway, somebody may be able to say, okay, I'm over it, I'm moving past. Another person's like, no, actually, no, ain't nobody moving anywhere, right, until this thing is solved. So that's the thing, right? And so
that's the thing for us.
There's already. Well, I mean, it can be a thing for us. I mean, that's the thing, but here's the thing. When somebody says, I'm over it, they really, are they? I don't know about that. Good, I'm fine, right? I've never heard a person who's like really good say, I'm fine. Have you?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
I know that some people are able to move on or move past something a little bit more rapidly than others. And so each of us has the ability and capability of being stubborn. And then each of us also has the capability of wanting to move from discomfort quickly. But either way, thanks for joining us. Either way, the idea is to be at the same place at the same time.
Yes, that's the idea.
Is that the goal?
And, that's the goal, but that's kind of the essence of disagreement and conflict. When you're not at the same place at the same time, what do you do then? Right? Because ideally, it's like, hey, come on, let's go, and we're gonna do this thing together, and we're holding hands. We are lockstep. What happens when you're not lockstep? Yeah. Right? Because now there's all kind of advice about what to do when you're in disagreement, right? Because I think it's important for you as a married couple, for anyone, but certainly we're here talking about marriage. This is the marriage shop, Apple. It's important to get to that place of agreement quickly. And so, but agreement though, I don't know if it's agreement on the issue or agreement about how we're going to handle it, about how we're going to manage it and move forward, right? And so, so I was looking at this article this week. Is it simplemarriage.com? Is that where this came from? I think it's
simplemarriage.com. Yeah.
And so looking through this, and there's all kinds of things out there you can Google. So this is just one of many. It talks about it doesn't really talk, but how to communicate with your partner when you disagree. This is by Corey Allen, who wrote this, and it's solid, right? I mean, things like so communicate with respect. That's necessary, right? And so that's solid, because oftentimes when marriages are in real trouble, what you'll often see is the erosion of respectful communication. So it becomes more contentious. It becomes more, harsh. Right? And all of a sudden you're not seeing a person now. Now you're just seeing the problem, and you're attacking as if you're talking to the problem, so to speak. Right. So that's what I think why respect is important.
But before we get to how to really resolve it, I mean, I think it's important to do a couple of things like we've done in the past. Number one, conflict is inevitable. There's going to be a time in your marriage or your relationship that you're going to disagree. And I don't believe it's possible to be married to someone else or in a relationship with someone else and completely agree on everything all the time. Right. And so, and as this article says, the question, can you remain satisfied in your marriage or relationship despite those differences?
Yes.
And I think that's really what we're kind of getting at, because especially early in relationships, believe that you have to strive or have a goal of eliminating conflict and being completely balanced and on the same accord all the time. Right. And so if that is a goal that you set for yourself, I will tell you to
wait, don't tell them that yet. We not hold on, just hold on.
I was gonna say
not
throw
yet.
that out.
That is, come on now. No, so let me just go through what Corey said, right? Because I want to offer. We're gonna flip it.
Okay.
All right. Because again, sound stuff. So everything it's okay. So
if you're just joining us, we're Mike and Wendy Perry in the Marriage Shop. 2020 vision is what we're talking about, and what to do if you don't see eye to eye.
Yeah. So
all
right. So Corey offered us. This is Corey Allen, right? SimpleMarriage.com.
Yes.
Offered four things. Solid, right? So communicate with respect. Fine. Solid. Clearly define yourself.
Yeah.
All right. And really that's about understanding who you are, right? What makes you tick? What do you believe you need? At a deeper level, what and how do you exist with this other person? But you got to kind of first understand who you are, because maybe you'll be even able to help your partner, your spouse, understand better who you are, right? But certainly you'll understand how you respond to certain things and why you respond in that way, hopefully. But this is where two different people, this is kind of the essence of it, right? When you really get deep down in who we are. The third one, though, so they are communicate with respect, clearly define yourself. The third is understand the idea of overfunctioning and underfunctioning. And basically that is a suggestion that there are certain areas we function effectively, and there are certain areas where we don't, right? And so we tend to lean more into the areas where we believe are effective, not as much into the areas that we don't. But where this comes into marriage is that if my spouse is underfunctioning in an area that I believe is important, then I may tend to overfunction and try to compensate and try to fill in the blanks and pick up the pieces and all that.
Right.
And so, but not just for the sake of doing it. It's like for the sake of trying to bring her along and here, do what I do it like this. You know what I mean? And so what happens though is
that doesn't work.
No, that just doesn't change anything, right? Because if I'm now going into overdrive on something that I think is important, like if I'm like crazy about where the forks go in the dishwasher, and I'm like, look, hey, come over here, Wendy, look, this is how you take work, do this, do that, right? Well, all it's gonna do is just breed some annoyance and resistance, right? So, but we do that. People often say, I'm doing it out of love. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you out, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, don't do that. And so, with respect, define yourself, understand what over and under functioning is, and then live by what you hold dear. And so, living by what you hold dear is first understanding that you all are different. And if your spouse doesn't agree or doesn't come along, just live life. Just do. I mean, if there's something important to you, do it.
Yeah.
Right. That's Corey Allen's rundown.
Right. And now you're saying we're going to flip it.
Well, when I say flip it, what I mean is, I that in that last one, okay, it's like don't bug somebody about, let's say, I don't know, somebody about it. Just maybe do it. If you believe something needs to be done, or you want something done in a certain way, maybe you do it, right?
Yeah.
And so you can argue with those. I meose are okay. I just believe that there's a little something missing there.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. So there are a lot of ways to look at this. Hey, Tanya, Michelle, thanks for joining us. So communicating with respect, we've talked about that. For several years, we've been talking about that, how you communicate with each other, what you say, how you say what you say, all those things matter. And how much they matter really is defined within your relationship. clearly defining yourself. I think we could probably talk about that for a couple of times that we come to this, because when you're looking at that, each of us has their own point of view, but really examining and reflecting on how you arrived at it, how your beliefs and truths came about, that requires some real work, because we often get into, well, I wish you could understand me, when often we don't even understand ourselves. And so again, you went over all that. When you come back to, all of the common things about things that we disagree about, how we're going to raise our children, how many children you want to have, how often we have sex. Somebody is a neat freak, somebody is a slob. Somebody wants to save, somebody wants to spend. All of those things are common in relationships and marriage. And so when you kind of categorize it as all these things are common, then we sometimes can dismiss those things. But the truth is that we often continually relive those conflicts, even when they're small, and they just cycle around. So even if we move past it, whether it's at the speed of the person who wants to move on, or the pace of the person who wants to hold up and resolve it, it isn't really resolved, then you continually live over and over again. Even when you feel like you resolved it, it can resurface. And so when we talked about triggers the last time we were here, we talked about how some of those things just will not die. They don't go away. But how do you handle it and respond to it when it's back up? So how are we flipping this?
Well,
or what's that extra piece?
Well, I almost want to put it to everybody out there. What's missing? Right? I mean, if we agree that these are generally solid, what's missing? Because I believe there is at least one really important piece that's missing, and so because the whole idea of moving past problems, what is that really? I mean, some people, because you're right, there's like somehow you're still tethered to that thing. And so you think you're past it and you're running, and then boom, you get yanked back.
Right.
And so, and a lot of relationships have those cycles where you cycle and you cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes like, well, we've kind of, gotten through this thing today, but when is it going to come back? Now people start over their shoulder. And so then when it comes back, it's like, this looks familiar. I know what this is. Right. And here we are again. Here we go again. Oftentimes, right?
Right. And sometimes it's about responding differently. So Tanya, Michelle, Jessica Jones, and Michelle Moore, welcome back and Happy New Year.
Hey.
I'm glad you guys could join us. I talked about the same things coming back up and having a different response. But I'd like to just pose to you, when we talk about New Year's resolutions, and you did an interview this week that I thought was really insightful. You all shared a really awesome article to start the year off, right? So when we talk about doing something different, I mentioned how difficult it is to break a habit. And when you consider how difficult it is for an individual person to break a habit, even if you resolve to do it, and our pastor talked about it on Sunday, even when you resolve to do it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to do it. And so setting a goal doesn't necessarily mean that on your own you'd be able to reach it, right? Okay. So when you examine yourself and you think about how difficult it is for you to change a habit, then you also have to extend that same amount of grace that you have for yourself to the other person. And I think that's where we get into, that would be my response to that, right? If I am willing to forgive myself, give myself a little bit of room to lapse or fall back in my attempts to overcome something that I'm doing, then I would ask that you're able to do the same, or that you do the same, or that I extend you the same.
Yeah. So, see, actually, there was a little twist you threw in there.
What was that?
I don't know if y'all caught that. Well, because you said if you're able to forgive yourself. And so I'm like, man, suppose, because there are a lot of people who haven't forgiven themselves. For all kinds of things, right? And they've taken the mistakes they've made, the missteps, and they carry them because some people believe they're worthy of being forgiven. And so if I don't believe I'm worthy of being forgiven, how am I going to somehow deem you worthy of be forgiven, right? And so I'm carrying this load. I feel guilty. Well, maybe you should feel guilty too, right? And why is it that you're getting over this so fast? Why are you not moping around, right? Why are you not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's an important piece, right? Because biblically, the requirement to forgive is not simply because we're supposed to forgive as we've been forgiven, right?
Yes.
But we're supposed to forgive ourselves too.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, hey, moving on, hey, ideally moved on, it's gone, right? Sometimes not always gone, but I think it's about the acknowledgement. Hey, I'm not perfect. There's some things that I've messed up on. And so if I'm giving myself a break, maybe I should give somebody else a break too. And that maybe I must. Right?
Yeah, but often we don't. I mean, let's just be real. It is very easy to see the fault, the missteps, the habits that we don't like, and the issues in someone else. So much easier to see it in somebody else than in ourselves. And then when we see it, to resist the urge to comment, remind them, take issue with it, becomes a challenge. And that's why a lot of these things cycle back. So it's like, okay, you know what? We can have sex and get past this thing, right? That's a temporary fix. Because a lot of people do that, right?
They do.
I mean, they do. You sleep on it.
Make up sex.
Right. So you get past it until it resurfaces, right? And so what you did really annoyed me. I was really angry. I didn't agree with it, but we talked about it. You said, whatever, you understand and you're going to try, and it's all good. We make up, we move on, and then you do it again. And then it's okay. See, so either you didn't hear me, you didn't understand me, or you weren't true in what you said. You're not being true to your commitment to not do that thing again. Right. And so we get and work ourselves to a position of not being graceful. Right. And there's like zero latitude in reforming or moving forward or changing our behavior. Right. Behavior change is hard.
It is. And some of y'all can relate to what we're talking about because, there are some folks who will say, hey, we don't hold on anything. Right. And if you don't, rock on. Good on you, right?
Not us.
I mean, that's not quite us, right? And so it is difficult sometimes because there are some things that you just believe to your core, right? Or some things that are just really, really important to you, or some things that you believe should be important, blah, blah, right? So it is very difficult to let go. That's just real, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're the folks who are like, we're good, we move on quick. Cool, but don't call me. but really that should be to forgive quickly and to move on quickly. That should be the goal. That should be what we're striving toward and what we're doing.
Yes.
And so how do you do it though, right? Because your issue's not getting resolved, or if your belief, your thing is not being taken up in a way that you believe is appropriate, then I think then you have to now move beyond that into something else, right? And so when we're talking about vision, what do you want this to look like?
Yeah.
Do you want it to look like what it looks like? When you're kind of like pissed off and you it's pissed off. Is that a cuss word?
I was thinking about that. It's not a cuss word.
I think it's something a little bit. My bad, y'all. Whatever. We keeping it real. Anyway, so but you're angry. So, but do you want to live that way? Do you want to live in resentment, or what does it look like? Because you have to bring it around to what you want it to look like and the behavior that's required to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only do you need to look at perhaps the fact that you're not perfect, but oftentimes I tell people, and I will do this myself, right? I look at this person, I'm like, okay, who did you marry, right? Why did you marry this woman, right? Who is she? And I just kind of zoom out, I look around, I take in, what she, I look at my environment, I look at her, I might check her out. when she's not looking? Think this, right? And in order to, just sometimes you got to remind yourself, like, why you're here in the first place and what's important and beautiful and valuable.
Yeah, and we talked about that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at pictures, videos, things to remind you of why you're there, because when you're in the midst of something, it is really hard to cling to all of the good in it. Sometimes it's impossible to see the good in it because you are being blinded by what's not good. Another trap that we find ourselves in is feeling like, well, I forgave you for something that was huge, but I do something that's small, you won't let it go. And so then we start keeping score. And I think it's important in any relationship that you really kind of check yourself on whether or not you're keeping score. Because if you're keeping score, then you are inviting resentment, you're inviting anger, you're inviting disappointment, because you're now so acutely aware of what's being done to you and how you see it. And it's never the same. The vision is not 20/20. The way you see it is not the way he sees it. And the way he sees it is not the way that you see it. And so you really kind of have to take a moment and think about that. Do you really want to keep score? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I heard somebody the other day talking about balance. And it's very interesting, right, to hear people talk about balance. Generally, the person talking about balance is that one who hadn't had their time at bat yet. No balance. Stop it. It's not 50-50.
No, it's 50-50, and
it actually shifts. Right?
Yeah, it does shift. I mean, depending on what needed. Yeah. And I think that 50-50 or that shift, when people talk about that, speaks to the overcompensating or compensating or whatever the term was that you used. So Jessica Jones says a little bit or commented about just being comfortable enough to talk about and work our shortcomings. And again, doing a little introspection before you do some inspection is I think advisable. Look at yourself before you look at anybody else. Hey, Drew Robinson.
Hey, Drew. What's up?
Yes. So thanks for joining us.
Well, Jessica went on, and this next one is actually, I think, really, this is insightful. So she said to keep a picture perfect house. My home is nice, my bills are paid, and my kids are fed. I think we have to know where the spouse is coming from and why they are the way they are. Not saying it's an excuse, but a grace and a let's work through this together thing. Man, yeah. So how many of us really know or care to know or have asked or really try to understand where your spouse is coming from? Because often we come to situations with this is why I want what I want. And a lot of times it's because, well, this is what I saw growing up, or this is what I believe based on what I was taught and all that. And so we account for our own background, but do we account for the person that you married, right? The 201, right?
Yeah, and not always. And I mean,
not always what?
Not always do you account for the other person's background. Yeah, the two are one. Yes, always. But you don't account for it. And there's so many different things. Jason Gauze, thanks for joining us. So many things. How you grew up, we've talked about that before. What your expectations are and your idea of what a functional marriage is. Having those conversations. But Jessica Jones, her point is well noted in that how we grew up and what formed us into who we are is something that is often recognized by the person that you're in a relationship with, not always appreciated. And so, while you can see it, okay, well, I know that you don't like such and such. However, I really don't have an appreciation for why that is. Yeah. And so I think, again, taking something to look at, well, acknowledging it versus appreciating what that is for that other person, seeing it from their perspective.
Yeah, and being able to have a conversation about what the meaning of some things might be. Some people are ready to have that conversation. Hey, this is how I am. But let me give you the rest of the story, or give you some pieces to help this make sense to you. And so then you kind of get a better idea of what the impact is, what their experience is like. But sometimes I believe that that we are reluctant to share those deeper things. Some of you have there are things that you've never shared with your spouse before, right? And
Yes.
and those things are driving everything about how you respond to things. And so you just want them to change. You don't want to have to deal with the background or the baggage. You just want them to change, so then you'll be comfortable and we have no conflict.
Right.
But
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but they don't appreciate the gravity of that issue for you.
Right.
Necessarily.
When you start having those conversations, and often in therapy, you find out about past childhood trauma, for example, or things that affect intimacy in your relationship, decision making in your relationship, money habits in your relationship and marriage, and all those things. What we often find ourselves doing in the absence of really peeling that back or having a real appreciation for how it got formed is we hear what the person says, this is just how I am. And then we make a decision about whether or not we care.
Yeah.
So,
or whether or not we will accept that.
Right. You said that's how you are. So just be different. Right. It's easy. Just change how you are, because how you are is not working. Yeah. It's not working for me. So change that.
Good evening, Mark Jenkins and Amasaver Marty Benson.
Hey, family.
Long time no
Hey,
see.
Marty. Yes. So what else you got?
Well, I mean, what else I got? I mean, I just that I want to reiterate, right? Because it's easy to talk about things and to make light and to just say, hey, just do it. Difficult for some of you. Right? And so the piece that's missing in this is that grace and forgiveness piece, that acknowledgement that, maybe the person married is imperfect. Man.
Yeah.
And maybe you are too. Right?
Yeah.
And so that immediate issue feels like the one that's most important. This issue today, I know that other thing happened, yesterday, but this is more important. This is right now. And, this is like the third time, or it's way bigger than that thing on Friday, right? And so and that's just human nature, right? It's a bias that we carry where we will attribute other people's faults to their character, right? Us, it's more situational, right? When it's you personally, it's situational. I did this because, there's justifiable reason. And so I'm justified, but your spouse, well, you need to change. So.
Yeah, we're quick. As I said, we're quick to say that you need to change. So if you're joining us for the first time with Mike and Wendy in the Marriage Shop, at this point in the year, we're thinking about 2020 vision or vision 2020. And sometimes you won't see eye to eye. That is fact. How do you respond and what should you do? And you, at the beginning, you said communicate with respect, right? Understand the idea of overfunctioning and underfunctioning, overcompensating and not trying to compensate or being rigid, and clearly defining yourself. So a lot of what we discuss is about clearly defining yourself, really kind of doing some reflection on how you became who you are, and then putting yourself in a position where you can communicate that. And for both of you to be able to know yourselves so that you can better communicate who you are to the other person and appreciate it, right? So seeing things from the other person's perspective and appreciating everything about them, not just the things that you like.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes, all right, so y'all, you take this in the way, people, okay? But sometimes it doesn't even matter why you think what you think. Sometimes you just got to change yourself.
Well,
I'm just saying, sometimes that's just the reality of it, right? So
it's true.
It's like, because often, you look at a lot of, say like childhood lessons, we'll talk about things that learn coming up, right? I'm trying to one that is really kind of prominent that a lot of people can get, but it can be anything, right? And so because our parents, and we talked about this a little bit, our parents, our grandparents, or whatever, said, hey, this is what you do, right? Here.
Yeah.
And so we grab it, we swallow all that whole, and now we enter into a new relationship and this is the way it is for me.
Yeah.
However, maybe your spouse didn't grow up with your mom, grandma, and all them people, right? And so what about them and all the things that they believe are the thing? So that's why I'm saying sometimes what you come into this thing with, you have to completely reconceive. And even, okay, what was that about? Why do I do what I do? Right? Yeah. Because sometimes you'll find that perhaps you're stuck and you really don't need to be.
Yeah, but I think it's important in that situation that you don't try to force the other person to change, right? It has to be something that they come to on their own. If you get into a mindset or a thought process or a habit of trying to force a change, then again, it's going to cause conflict, right? And so people have to learn and grow on their own. Here's something else that's a news flash. Regardless of whether or not you've been in this thing or you're pre-married, you've been in it for a year, 5, 10, 25, or 55 years, we continue to grow and change. So even what I was able to explain and understood back at year 1, that may be different now at year 25.
You better check in at year 5.
Z, thanks for joining us. And Deborah Reed, shout out to the Maryland crew. Thank you for joining us. Yes, so checking in continually. So we've talked about that before. So appreciating each other for who you are, checking in continuously throughout the relationship, being honest about who you are, your feelings, your thoughts, and then a whole lot of love, a whole lot of grace, and some sacrifice.
Oh, snap. Love, grace, and sacrifice?
Yes, marriages work.
Now listen, think about this word sacrifice now, because I don't want y'all to get it twisted. I mean, we're talking like sacrifice. Like, here's something that is important to me, right? I hold it close to my heart. It can be anything, right? And sacrifice is giving that thing up, leaving that thing behind, like killing it.
All right.
Sacrifice. I mean,
Yeah, what are you willing to sacrifice? So as you cast your vision for 2020, the vision for your relationship, your marriage, for yourself, and you start to look at things, instead of looking for a quick fix, how about having an honest conversation? An honest conversation with self, as conversation with the person you're in a relationship or marriage with, and talk about where you are and where you're going. Not, and the goal of that is to become more aligned, but understand that rarely are you going to be in the same place, get on the same sheet, be in the same place, and move at the same pace.
Yeah.
If that happens for you, God bless you, because that's a challenge, and that's not really the goal, right? I would highly, highly encourage you to not make it a goal to just always be on one accord, because you won't always be on one accord.
Wait a minute, Mark Jenkins. You're funny, man. He's like, he wasn't obeying the vows. You wild. Yeah, it was. Obey.
Yeah.
You better obey. Doggone it. That's it. It's in the vows. Was there anything else in the vows?
What?
I don't even know. All right.
You go in there, love, honor, and obey. Is that so tell us a little bit more about that, right? Obedience is actually more about or between you and the Lord than it is between you and your spouse. When we talk about defining what each of our roles is in marriage, we really have to be honest about that. What does it really say? What did we really convey when we took those vows? We know what we vowed.
What you really sign up for.
Yeah.
Because a lot of you thought, oh, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, no, and it is amazing, right? But you thought all that little stuff we had going on, once we get married, it'll fix it all, right? Yeah. The old people will disappear. All of my hangups will go away. I feel better about this because we're married now, right?
Yeah,
No, you have to kill those hangups. You gotta take them out and smash them, and right? So anyway, that's another story.
And recognize when new ones develop. So, we talked a little bit about a lot, right? Forgiveness, love, respect. really appreciation for each other.
Yeah.
Marriage takes work, and any relationship takes work, but marriage takes work, and it can be everything that you imagine that it could be, and more.
Yeah.
You have to know that you're going to have to do something to make it work.
I like to add a little bit of nuance to things, right? Just to reconceive something that we've always thought or talked about or what have you.
Okay.
And so the idea of marriage takes work. And so I remember I used to hear that. I'm just like, oh man, I mean, that's making me tired just thinking about it. Really? Work? What does that mean? And it's very much nuanced, but I think, we could say that marriage requires effort, right? It requires that you try to make certain things happen, right? And so if you want peace, you go and you seek peace. No, more appropriately, you go and you bring peace if you want peace, right? And so the work is the effort to go against some of those natural impulses because they are natural. And just because you're married does not mean natural impulses don't kick in. And in fact, sometimes they kick in more quickly for the person that you're married to. Isn't it amazing how we treat total strangers with more respect, more joy, more everything often than we treat the people in our very lives? Yeah. So let that sink in for a second, right?
Yeah, that's word right there.
And so the effort is taking the time to recognize yourself and the effort to check yourself, to reel back in and say, okay, I see this type of marriage, this relationship, this is what I see for our future, and existing in that right now. That requires effort.
Yeah. And asking yourself the question, when there is turmoil, when there is disagreement, when you don't see eye to eye, asking yourself what role you played in that. Not just what they did to make you mad or what they did to disrupt peace or what they continue to do, but what role do you play or did you play in where you currently are, right? So we talked about a whole bunch. I mean, we have like all of 2020 to get into a number of things that will always be topics that are brought to us: finances, infidelity, communication, children, money. Did I say finances? Sex, friendship, all of those things will always be part of the conversation.
Did you say sex?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. So again, as you cast your vision for 2020, think about what you want to commit to daily. Thanks, Jessica Jones. For the whole year, what are you going to do? And Mark Jenkins, by the way, I know a lot of people change love, honor, and obey to love, honor, and cherish, or is it love, honor, and cherish? They drop the obey from the vows.
Like, oh no, pick that. It's gonna be some obeying around here. Pick that up.
Whatever it is. When we talk about renewing vows, right? When we talk about that whole process, then somebody said something that
was money right there. I'm like, yeah, that'll preach.
So anyway, thanks for joining us. We're Mike and Wendy in the Marriage Shop. We are excited about what 2020 will bring. So what we have upcoming, other than being family life speakers, our first, you can catch us in Myrtle Beach the weekend of February 28th to March 1st. But before then, on February the 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry, leap year first. My bad. You're right. Nothing. Continue. That why you look at me?
February 14th will be at Gardner Grove Baptist Church. They're doing Love Connections. And so they invited us and we humbly accepted. Thomas and Tiffany Stokes are really trying to build that marriage ministry over there at Gardner Grove. So we're excited about being able to go and share with the married couples at Gardner Grove and all over the greater Augusta area. So February 14th, I shared that on my story the other day. We'll put that out there again. Then I also mentioned the vision board, marriage vision board event at Okie Grove. So we'll add all of those things in, but until we see you the next time, our goal is at least twice a month. We're really going to try for every week on Mondays at 7 in the Marriage Shop.
But we can tell you that in January it won't happen simply because of our travel schedule. So we'll be off next week, but we'll be back the following week. And so feel free, or no, we not only feel free, please, if there are things you want to discuss, let us know. You can direct message us, or you can put it in this feed. And we also want you to send us your email addresses. So we're going to start sending out a little letter, probably about on a monthly basis, just a little some notes about things that we noticed as we go about. And I also want to share for the men, because I think it's important. We're going to be doing an event. If you're in the Augusta area, or you want to be, on February 1st, we're going to be doing an event. We call it Unity, and it's really about breaking down the vision and building this community. And so we focused on men first, because it's all about, if we believe same things, if we're all Christ followers, and if we're believing that love is important, if we're believing that family is important, and all these, well, we should be able to get beyond some other things that we haven't necessarily. And so we're going to come together over a good meal, some great discussion, and just kind of build relationships. Ultimately, unity is about creating space to build relationship, and that's what we're going to be doing. And it's free, by the way, February 1st. We'll drop that link in the feed as well.
Yeah, so a lot happening in January and February. And so we tried to commit to this last year, but we want to make sure that we follow through on this goal, and that is to spend a little bit of time praying for you and with you each time we join you live on Monday. So can we do that?
We can do that.
All right, so let's do it.
Okay. All right. Heavenly Father, we just come just thanking you for your might and for your presence, and for the way that you bless every day. We thank you for bringing us into 2020.